Hello, hello, and welcome back to Break the Clutter Cycle with the Maximizing Mama, the private podcast series dedicated to helping you understand why your house keeps getting cluttered despite all those organizing tips, cleaning methods, and decluttering checklists you've used. The clutter cycle is a repetitive pattern of organizing, cleaning, and decluttering and tidying, only to have the clutter and the mess keep coming back again and again. It's driven by quick fixes that don't really get to the deeper issues like lifestyle, habits, and mindset, and it always leaves you feeling stuck and pissed off. In the last episode, we dove into phase one of the clutter cycle, which is the overwhelmed paralysis mindset. This happens when you first realize that you have way too much stuff in your home and you feel overwhelmed by the sheer volume of all of it. If you can resonate with that, you will definitely want to go back and listen to that episode because today we're diving into phase two, which is the next phase in the cycle. This is when you realize that you need to take action and do something about the clutter, so you try to get organized. And I call this the organizing trap. This is what happens when you've been overwhelmed with clutter and then you decide that you're ready to do something about it. You're fed up with all that stuff causing stress and chaos in your home, so you decide that it's time to get organized. As a decluttering coach who has been studying clutter for 16 years, I can tell you with certainty that this is the number one problem women run into. They believe that they need to be organized. They believe that their house is cluttered because it's not organized enough. And I thought the same thing. In 2016, right after I'd had my fourth child, my house was starting to fill with stuff. So, first, I moved us to a bigger home because I really thought that more space, that a bigger home would solve our problem. And that is actually a precursor to this clutter cycle. I didn't include it in this podcast series because not everybody has the means to move to a bigger space. So it's not something that typically happens to everyone, but it is definitely something that happens to a lot of people where even if they're not able to move to a bigger space, they do believe that that is going to solve the problem. And like I said, that's exactly what happened to me. So we upgraded from a regular apartment to a townhouse. But once we moved into this bigger space, into this townhouse, it was still full and the clutter was still stressing me out. So, since having more space didn't solve our problem, I thought that I just needed to organize my home better. I thought that our townhouse was cluttered and messy because I wasn't organized enough as a mom. Because before I'd had kids, I had always been a naturally organized person. So, since moving to a bigger home didn't help, I really believed that I just needed to do a better job of getting organized. So I spent the next year intricately organizing every single space in our townhouse. I bought organizing books, I pinned ideas on Pinterest, and I had an entire Evernote document that was filled with detailed step by step instructions for exactly what I was going to do to organize every single inch of our home. And I was successful. Every shelf had a label on it, and it was beautiful and it was perfect. It looked straight out of a magazine. But it didn't make a lick of a difference. It didn't stay that way. And that's actually a story for a different episode because today we're diving into this organizing trap. We're going to talk about this desire to get organized when the clutter is taking over. The reason why this happens, the reason why so many people believe that they need to get organized is because organizing is seen as the solution, mostly since there's a lot of focus in the media and from professional organizers on using organization systems like bins and labels and color coded shelves. Professional organizers have these beautifully organized homes that are free of clutter and easy to tidy. And because of that, we get the message loud and clear that if our things are just organized better, that our homes will feel better, that our homes will feel more peaceful, that our homes will look just like theirs. And it definitely doesn't help that the media literally highlights organization as the ultimate goal. I once Googled another word to describe our home life, and the very first result was an article that said, being organized is the key to a great life. And I'll never forget it. My jaw literally hit the floor. But the problem is that none of these experts ever mentioned the need to reduce the volume of our material items first. Of course, some of them might say that you need to declutter and organize at the same time, but they rarely explain what that means or why it's so important. And that is why millions of people end up in this clutter cycle in the first place, because of the fact that our quote unquote home lives include any concept of decluttering, tidying, cleaning, or organizing, but it just kind of all gets lumped together into organizing. And no one is clarifying the difference, which is exactly why I Googled another word to describe our home lives, because I was trying to figure out a way to define this, a way for people to understand what I meant without using the word organizing. And this really comes down to me wanting to differentiate why organizing should be separate from everything else. But again, that's a lesson for another day. As a matter of fact, a few times a year, I launch my program, Clutter to Calm, where we dive into exactly this. But basically, since we've been taught that organizing is the ultimate goal, we end up trying to get organized as a quick fix. And this could show up in a number of ways. You could spend money buying storage solutions and organizing products and spend a lot of time implementing them in your home because you believe that that's going to solve the problem, since you've seen that it helps professional organizers. Or you could just use old baskets and bins and storage containers to contain your belongings as a budget-friendly way of organizing. Or you might even try to declutter and organize at the same time, like the home edit teaches. This is when you pull everything out of a space, you sort it all into piles like keep, donate, relocate. You likely do let go of a few things. You do declutter a few items, and then you relocate other items, and then you put everything back in a more organized way. The goal is to organize this space, and you just end up decluttering along the way. And even though this is what pro organizers say to do, this is the method that they say works, it's not effective, and it rarely works for anyone who has too much clutter, especially when you're in this clutter cycle, because this method of organizing and decluttering at the same time, it causes you to get more caught up and more focused on organizing your things and not enough time and effort on actually letting go of the excess clutter. So even though it looks like you're decluttering and it feels like you're decluttering and you are decluttering a little bit, it's not enough to make any bit of a difference, and it's still considered organizing. Now, one caveat I want to mention very quickly, I have a lot of people tell me that the home edit method works for them. And that's great. It works for a lot of people. But what I have always seen is that method that the home edit teaches of decluttering and organizing at the same time, that works when you're in maintenance mode, when you just need to declutter a few times a year. And that therein lies the problem. Going back to, again, me trying to describe our home lives, a lot of people will hear the word decluttering and will think that I mean getting rid of some of your kids' toys 2 months before Christmas or decluttering out your closets before the season changes. That's not what I'm talking about here. That's maintenance decluttering, and that is when the home edit method of decluttering and organizing at the same time, that works really well in maintenance mode. But when you're at the beginning phases of your journey and your home is very cluttered and full of stuff, when you're at the beginning of this clutter cycle, that method of trying to declutter and organize at the same time, where you're stuck in this organizing trap, it's not effective. It's not enough to make a difference. So that's just another way that getting organized might show up for you. But a third way is if you're rearranging your things neatly and trying to kind of make an area look as orderly as possible. So this is, let's say I'm sitting at my desk right now. If I had a pile of papers in front of me, what I mean for this third way is when you're kind of just neatly arranging things, and in your mind you're thinking, I'm going to organize this desk. And this third way really happens for the people whose homes are bursting at the seams and there's literally nowhere to put anything. But essentially, you're just finding clever ways to store all the stuff in your home. And while these three ways of getting organized does make your space look better temporarily, it doesn't solve the root problem. The root problem for why you're stuck in the clutter cycle to begin with. At the root of all of this, it all comes down to one very simple thing. You have too much stuff. You have more stuff than you have space for. And like I was saying earlier, many people think that they just need more space and that's going to solve the problem, but that is not a realistic solution because buying a bigger house is not always possible. And even if you move to the biggest house in your neighborhood, you're just going to continue buying more stuff. The amount of things that you have will expand to fit the space that you live in. So if you have more stuff than you have space for, you need to let go of the excess. This is a very powerful lesson that we must fully understand because we as a society, we're at a crossroads. We're at a point in history where our homes are going to become very full very quickly unless we learn how to let go of the things that we no longer need, use, or want. Because when you couple consumerism with the information age and the fact that we can have anything we want delivered to our doorsteps in less than 2 days, our homes are filling up faster than we're learning how to let go. And that's not even touching on the landfills, which I'm not even going to get into right now because, again, that's another topic for another episode. But at the core of it, the excess material items, our consumer habits, the digital age that we live in, coupled with our habits that are keeping clutter in our house, it all boils down to our lifestyles, which is actually what we're going to be diving into in an upcoming masterclass to help you be an ethical consumer, to help you live a clutter-free lifestyle, to help you get your family on board and create habits and systems to keep a tidy home, a peaceful mind, and a calm, relaxing heart. But for now, today, we're talking about the clutter cycle. The first phase of this cycle is when you realize that your house is cluttered and you feel overwhelmed and paralyzed trying to figure out where to start. Eventually, you move on to getting organized because you've been taught by professional organizers that being organized is the key to a tidy home. Maybe you're buying organizing products or you're decluttering and organizing at the same time, like the home edit says to do. Or maybe you're simply rearranging, reordering, and reorganizing all the stuff on your flat surfaces and putting things in containers to try to make your main living spaces look as tidy as possible. But no matter what, it's a quick fix because as long as you still have too much clutter, as long as you have more stuff than you have space for, all those baskets and bins will quickly fill up, and you will be left with organized clutter that still feels overwhelming. And then, in another week or so, your house will be a mess again. And that leads us right into phase 3 of the clutter cycle, when your house gets cluttered all over again. That is what we're covering in the very next episode. But very quickly, I want to mention that phase 2 is called the organizing trap because you can become stuck here where you get organized and then your house gets cluttered again. So then you try to organize even more and then the clutter still comes back. So you're spinning your wheels and you're organizing repeatedly until something breaks you out of the space, till something snaps you out of this organizing trap. Usually, it's a decluttering expert or a blog post or a TikTok video. There's something you see or read or hear that breaks you out of the organizing trap by informing you that organizing is not going to solve the problem of having too much stuff. For you, that might actually be you sitting here listening to this podcast episode right now. So, at the start of your journey to a more tidy, peaceful home, once you move past the overwhelm and you move into phase two, most people haven't really done a lot of research at this phase. So, you're just kind of following what you believe is the best solution, and that's why you're organizing repeatedly. Then, once you start learning from experts and paying attention to different home life concepts, then you become aware that organizing is not going to solve a cluttered home. And that is actually when you move on to phase four, which we're going to get into in a few episodes. But for now, we're moving on to phase three. This is when you have got organized. You've bought some bins and some baskets, and you've implemented different organizing ideas around your house. But the clutter just comes back, and now your house is a mess again. Phase three that we're about to get into in the next episode is really stressful because you've put your faith in this method. You believed that organizing your home would work because it worked so well for all those pro organizers. But when your house gets cluttered all over again, you feel kind of shitty. And that is exactly why we have this masterclass coming up in November to help you tackle the clutter once and for all. And I would love to see you there. So check out the link below in the show notes. That way you can save your seat and get the roadmap to a clutter-free life where this clutter cycle is not even an option. So go save your seat. And let me know if you can relate to phase two of the clutter cycle, the organizing trap. Let me know if you have ever been here where you have tried to organize your home, hoping and praying that it would give you a tidy, peaceful environment. I would love to know if the phases of this clutter cycle are resonating with you. And that's all for today's episode, my friend. Our next episode is coming on Monday, October 21st, where we're going to be talking about phase three of the clutter cycle when your house gets cluttered and messy all over again. I'll see you there.